are heading into the world of A Crown of Cold Iron. Some folks might have caught the Silver and Snow one part that became a two-part adventure. You all are picking up about a month later with an entirely different set of characters. So we're just going to jump right in, and we will sort of describe and introduce characters as we get them. It's a bitter, cold winter morning in Queensboro. The snow has been falling relentlessly for what feels like months. Fluffy gray and white clouds are draped artfully above the sweeping steel and glass and concrete skyline. Millions of people move through the sprawling streets below. Children dutifully trudging to school, wrapped in heavy layers in the shattered dreams of a snow day. Businessmen and women filling up offices, little bastions of warmth and cutthroat capitalism against the cold. Streaming coffee flows from corner shops and chains alike, the pumping brown blood that shoves the human masses of the city into motion. But not only humans. Here and there among the teeming throngs, a business suit artfully cut to allow for opalescent butterfly wings. A street busker seemingly untouched by the cold, playing otherworldly songs and watching the passers-by with gleaming purple feline eyes. And on one particular block, on one particular street, in a small brick-faced townhouse, there is a melodic tinkling rain of falling glass and fairy dust. A scream is cut short, unheard and unnoticed by the awakening city around it. Our vision pans away from that macabre tableau. We drift back up and over the city. It's a new day in Queensboro. So we find ourselves first in the neighborhood known as Falmouth. The buildings here are the awkward middle children of the city. Neither the epic historical marvels of Old Imperial nor the sleek modern spires of Central and the Plaza. The people here work hard and often not for the recompense they deserve. But the community presses on, hoarding pride as fiercely as any dragon. We zoom in on a small, cramped studio apartment tucked into the endless rows of aging apartment buildings and doggedly persistent local establishments. The apartment is relatively bare in furniture, but makes up for it in a stunning amount of knickknacks and small baubles. Posters of local events and famous human artists and entertainers, a third-hand TV on a fourth-hand curio, all surrounded by snow globes and little replicas of human world landmarks. A t-shirt reading, "I heart the borough" has pride of place on the wall. Almost buried behind the visual riot of items, we find a strange figure, asleep in an even stranger pose. A young dragon-like humanoid with gold scales occupies a mattress, frameless and shoved into the corner. He is curled around a small heap of blankets and pillows, his tail twitching gently in his slumber, a small-scale replica of ancestors who slept on piles of gold. Beside him, a battered, small smartphone beeps and chimes insistently. Joe, please describe your character.
All right. Well, since it's just me, I guess I'm currently waking up in pajamas from a variety of locations. A silver dragonborn with patches of gold scales littered across his body reaches and... What time is it?
It is 8:45.
8:45.
The alarm that keeps flaring and popping up on your screen and beeping insistently says 9 a.m. Don't be late.
That was one time, Steve. I jump out of bed and rip off the pajamas and immediately go into my traditional business attire, which is some fancy blue slacks, a nice cream-colored button-down shirt, and a purple sweat.
Classy.
And rush out the door, briefcase in hand, coffee cup with cold coffee from the night before. Not enough time to make new coffee. Where's the train station again?
It takes you a second, but you remember which way, and you navigate off in the correct direction.
All right.
So we see our new Dragonborn friend disappear down into a subway station. So we pull back and find ourselves in a new location, only a few blocks away, still within the aging streets of Falmouth. A thin young man is shoveling some of the ever-present snow out of a small alley. He clears a satisfactory path and steps inside, returning a moment later with several bulging garbage bags that he heaves into the dumpster. Despite the obvious strain, he claps his hands together with apparent satisfaction. He pokes his head back into the door, and we see that we have entered into a bar. Not a bawdy chain bar and grill with faux memorabilia on the walls, nor one of the seizure-inducing sonic cacophonies that caters to the very young and the very drunk. This is an old bar. It's a place of wood and stone and the memory of liquors past. There is a warm, welcoming darkness to the place, even in the ghostly early hours, devoid of customers. The young man yells to someone in a room behind the bar, "Hey, Lexi! I took the trash and shoveled the snow. I'm heading out." Rachel, please describe your character.
So Alexis, call me Lexi, Faringo, is she is a former military, retired, and started her career here at Lou's as a bouncer. She likes to wear muscle shirts. It's a little too cold to show it off, but this is the closest thing to a muscle shirt I have. And she's kind of a typically unassuming person, but there's more behind her than meets the eye.
So you hear Caleb shout his goodbye and head out to go sleep a little bit more before you begin your day of work at the bar. Your phone rings. It's a number you don't recognize, but it's local.
I'll take a risk and answer it since it's local.
And I'm going to look at how your name is spelled because I'm going to say it wrong.
I probably say my last name wrong.
Miss Ferrigno?
Faringo.
Yes. This is Lieutenant Davis with the QPD. Are you familiar with an Archibald Moore?
I'm not sure.
I'll help you out here.
I'll see it. Yeah, I see right here.
Archie is one of the regulars at Lou's. He's a professor at one of the smaller schools in town, and he was just in your bar last night.
Yes, I just switched over to my backstory and I see that. I do know an Archie. He comes by Lou's a lot.
And when was the last time you saw Dr. Moore?
Saw him last night, in fact. He was here for a drink and decided to wrap up his conversation and head out like he does normally. Nothing peculiar.
I know this is an inconvenience, but this is rather urgent. Can you please meet us at the Kent building at Ravenbrook University?
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
We just need to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
The officer hangs up the phone, and what do you want to do?
I guess I will get myself to a stopping place in making sure that the bar is where I want it, since God only knows how long I'll be gone. And then grab my coat and my keys and lock up and head to the Kent building.
As you're about to lock the door, you feel this weird pulse. And it's something that you've not interrogated too closely up to this point, but it's almost like a vibration ran through the whole structure of the bar, and you felt it in your hand as you went to lock the door, like a reminder. And you remember your weapon. And you don't know why, but for some reason you have a feeling that you're going to need it.
Then I grab it.
You're not sure where you left it last, but as soon as you step in the door, it's leaning against the wall, right as if you had left it in that spot.
Okay.
As soon as
Then I'm going to pick it up.
as soon as you step outside, there's sort of a hazy glimmer, almost like smoke or heat waves, that comes off of it, and no one comments on it as you make your way towards the university.
Interesting.
Now we pan one neighborhood away to the suburban sprawl of Vert. Here, row upon row of comparatively new homes and apartments extend in a labyrinthine network of middle-class life. We move past the bustling of bodies in the street until we come to rest at a small coffee shop. It sits on the edge of neighboring Falmouth, a venerable institution and likely one of the oldest surviving local coffee places on this side of town. Inside, a concerned and weary-looking man with long dark hair is sipping a warm beverage and looking at two very frustrating items in front of him. The first, a cryptic and irritating text message from an old friend and mentor. And the second, a dossier, a printed collection of papers shoved into a manila folder. It seems to be mostly government documents. At the top of the stack are several photos. They show a young blonde man with a dazzling smile staring into some kind of DMV or city office camera with every indication of wonder and delight. There's a strange haze to the man's silhouette, though most humans in the city wouldn't notice. The dark-haired man sighs and looks up from his contemplation as a server passes by. John, describe your character.
So Cyrus Dunhollow has got long black hair and a neatly trimmed black goatee. He's wearing just jeans and a black t-shirt, but then thrown over it is this battered trench coat, and he has items coming out of just about every pocket imaginable on the trench coat in different places.
All right. The server comes by and moves as if to like top up your coffee, and suddenly your phone goes off with like 3 different notifications at once. It startles her, and she dumps a little bit of coffee onto some of the papers on the table. I'm so sorry. Oh, let me go get something. And she rushes off to grab a towel behind the coffee bar. So the alerts on your phone are coming up from 2 different monitoring systems that you have set up. The first is pretty recent. You just set it up yesterday when you first received this frustrating text message. Your quickest GPS from a cell phone has just started racing across town, following one of the subway lines and heading for Ravenbrook University. At the same time, you see your dubiously legal access point for the police intranet is blowing up with officers and squad cars heading in the same direction.
Okay.
What would you like to do?
So I'm gonna try to grab something and dab the coffee for a minute. I'll And it looks like both, or the police isn't a GPS. It's just information about Ravensbrook.
So you actually get all kinds of information. You are way up in their system in a way that, even with your extensive legal protections as part of your role, they would probably not be okay with. So you're kind of seeing everything. You've got like GPS markers on cars. You have GPS tags of body cameras. You're getting sort of like text chatter coming across their like emergency operators line. And it looks like there are a couple of detectives heading that way, but also it looks like they've called in quite a few just like patrol officers. It looks like they're requesting some crowd control and some folks to do some forensics and CSI type work.
Okay.
Basically, in piecemeal, you've managed to get all the different information one individual at a time, and you just have all of it now.
Yeah. Can I take note if there are a couple a detective and maybe a forensics person from the department who I have worked with before who are not answering the call?
So he's not on site, but one of your go-to guys is Detective Avery.
Okay.
He's due for an official promotion to match his new role. He's the head of a relatively new department called Special Crimes Unit, which is the city's awkward, fumbling police speak for crimes involving the Fae or magic or anything unusual that has appeared over the last decade or so.
Okay. So I'm gonna keep an eye out, and if it doesn't look like Detective Avery is, I'll start heading towards the university. And if it doesn't look like Detective Avery is going to be on site, I'm going to be mentally kind of refreshing what I know he looks like in my head.
Nice. All right. Our vision now turns, appropriately enough, to the campus of Ravenbrook University. It's a compact collection of buildings interspersed with wide snowy lawns at the edge of Old Imperial. Despite the hour and the cold, one of the small assembly halls is packed nearly to the brim. Students and professors and community members have jammed into this small space for this rare opportunity. They watch in rapt fascination as the speaker weaves a compelling tale, colliding life and history and meaning in an utterly novel way. A particularly apt listener might notice the subtle magic woven into the words. An old magic of honeyed words and tales told. The magic will linger on them for quite a while, some longer than others. A warmth, an introspection, a sudden smile or laugh in a quiet moment, a courage that will carry them through another frigid day. The speaker finishes and spends a few moments shaking hands and signing items before the crowd disperses back into the snowy world beyond. Kathy, describe your character.
Zara's just finished telling the story about a story from when the world was new, and about a man and a woman who learned the sweetness of forgiveness and the sweetness of sharing with each other. And so Zara is in an interesting outfit. You've rarely seen one, and before a decade ago, you'd never seen one like this before. It's got a skirt and an over jacket, And it's weirdly belted yet also loose. And there's appliques of vines and florals and butterflies and some moths hidden in different places along the stitching. And Zara's been telling stories for her entire life, but she's been working with as a professor at Kent University at Raven Booker University for about a decade now, a little bit over. She published her first book that was her dissertation 11 years ago, and it's all about stories and folklore and tales.